Thank you everyone very much for joining us today for this webinar that we've prepared for you. It's a special webinar. We have a focus on our LATAM students who are pursuing an MBA in the Netherlands, are thinking of doing an MBA outside of the comfort zone of their home. And yeah, we hope that you will find it useful. My name is Maria. I am one of the admissions managers for the full-time MBA program at RSM. I take care of the American continent. So Latin American countries have also candidates who reside or live there, come from there, have me as their point of contact. I also travel very often to Latin America. I actually have an upcoming trip this March. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'll be, sort of moderating the discussion that we'll be having with our lovely recent graduates. And I'm going to present them in a bit. I'm going to let you also guys present yourselves shortly. In the background, we have my colleague Hilary, who is going to be responding to any questions you might be having. Also, we'll be choosing some questions to answer live during the session. Just before I let you guys introduce yourselves, we would love you to use the chat box for any comments you might have, but make sure to use the Q&A box for any questions that you're having. Just to make sure that we'll be able to respond to them towards the end of the session. We'll make sure that we leave about 15 minutes or so for any questions that we haven't covered during the talk that we'll be having. And I know it's always very easy to make it a very specific question that you might be having, or try to keep it a little bit more generic so that it can cover also perhaps other questions that people are having that are joining us today. I have the pleasure to have with me Ana Fer, Andres, and Juanjo. All three of them are recent graduates that just completed the program last December, so they have all very fresh memories of their MBA experience. Thank you very, very much, guys, for joining us today. And I'm going to let you introduce yourselves shortly, and then we can start with the rest of our webinar.
Yeah, I think I'll go first. So as Maria said, I'm Ana Fer, and I'm from Mexico. My professional background is I'm a customer marketeer, where my main focus has been commercial planning, promotional and pricing, development, and revenue management within the FMCG industry. So nice to have you all here.
I'm Andres. I'm also from Mexico, and I have a bachelor's in economics from Tec de Monterrey. And then after that, I joined a small consulting firm called Dilos Advisors. And that's where I had all my professional experience. I was there for around 7 years. And what we did was advise banks in Mexico, in the US, and in Europe just on strategy, design, and implementation. And then after that, I decided to join the MBA.
Hi, I'm Juan Jose. I am from Peru. I had a professional background of procurement. I was working in indirect procurement in Banco de Crédito in Peru for 8 years before joining the MBA. And I am currently working at Unilever, still in procurement, in charge of the bottles procurement for Europe for personal care and beauty and well-being.
Super. Thank you so much. And we're all right now actually in the Netherlands. All of us is in LATAM, except for Hilary, who is located in Mexico City. And will be answering questions that will be coming in throughout the session for us. Oopsie. Let me go on to the next slide if my computer allows me to. Perfect. I hope that you can see our agenda. We'll be talking about quite a lot of things. We'll try to start a little bit from the preparation period and the idea of you deciding to do an MBA program, just to help a little bit our participants to understand a little bit what was your reasons for choosing an MBA, why abroad, of course. we'll move forward to see a little bit how did you prepare yourself for the application? What were perhaps some tips that you would like to share with people who are watching us today? How did you prepare for your relocation to the Netherlands? The study experience overall for you, it's also a bit of a fresh thing because you started, of course, January 2023. And I'm really also curious to hear how you're experiencing life in the Netherlands. I would love to hear pros, but also cons. Yeah, some things that took you a little bit longer to get used to, let's say. And yeah, we can chat a little bit about where you are right now in terms of job search, how you've experienced the market so far. And then, yeah, perhaps there is another useful question that we'll be receiving from our audience today, and we can cover that as well. So should we start with the first topic? We had Juanjo introducing himself last, so I want to start with you first. What were the reasons for you wanting to do an MBA program? How did this idea get in your mind?
Before COVID, I was looking to develop my education, as I see education as a platform, as a trampoline that can allow me to get a better position, and not only my professional life, but also have a better understanding of how the world works, both professional and personally. I was doubtful about doing an MBA because, at least from my experience, I felt like everyone was doing it just for the sake of it. So I really deep dive into what are my main reasons, and I felt with my professional experience, it was a good way to connect with other people from around the world with good professional experience. And after studying the market and seeing what was the best option for me, I realized RSM was the best option for me for 4 main reasons. Location, actually living in the Netherlands as an expat, and I think Fer and Andres can vouch for me, it's a nice experience. You don't feel as an expat for sure. The job market for expats, it's not close at all because English is the main language. Well, the second main language in the Netherlands after Dutch. And also the main factor that led me to RSM was for sure the motto behind the program of being a force of positive change, which really resonates with me.
Perfect. How about you guys, Ana Fer and Andres?
Yeah, so for me, and the MBA was all about developing my soft skills. I felt that I wanted to empower myself more. And once I have talked to other friends who had made an MBA before, told me about their experiences, and I thought it was a good platform for me to do it. And even so, in RSM in particular, there is a program within the curriculum that is called PLD, which is Personal Leadership Development, which we have several classes around all the year where we explore more like your personal skills and leadership skills. And I think that was one of the main factors why I really liked RSM. Also, as Juanjo said, the location was also a big part of the decision, as we so I think we haven't said this, but Andres and I, we are married, and we made the MBA together. So we really like the way of living, as it's very active. You can walk or take the bike everywhere. So it was really good. That was some of the main factors that I took into consideration.
Well, for me, I mean, doing an MBA in general was always like the next step. I remember even before graduating in university, I knew back then that someday I was going to do an MBA, and that was going to be like the way of really making me a well-rounded professional. So when the time came to decide where to go, I started to really reflect on, well, what do I want to take away from an MBA? I mean, do I want to go into a specific work culture after the MBA? I mean, what do I want to do? And what are the values that resonate with me at the moment? So it was really after all of this reflection that I started first zooming in into the MBA programs in Europe and then to RSM precisely because it was the one that really resonates with the way of life that I want to have. I understand that there are many top MBA programs in the world, and all of them will lead you to hopefully like a better future. But when you really ask yourself, well, what do you want really out of life? The RSM model and really the Dutch lifestyle is what I want for me in the future and what we want as a family in the future. So that's why we took that joint decision of coming to RSM.
Super. Thank you very much, all three, for sharing that. You mentioned the location, of course, and the lifestyle. I think it's like a common denominator in the decision-making process that you went through. How would you say that, or let me say that differently. Would you say that this appeals to a larger Latin American group, something that they perhaps lack in their own home countries and they find out in the Netherlands? And what is that for you in that sense? How would you describe that perhaps in a few words? I think Annefer mentioned already that it's a very active lifestyle and you can enjoy a little bit like walking and cycling. What else would be there in the location?
I can add to that in the work mindset and the work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've talked to other Latin American alumni, and we are like all the same in our countries, where in our countries it's really valued to be there, to work hard. I mean, I used to work 60 hours a week back home, and you know, if you don't really work a lot, then you're seen as someone who doesn't care about your job. And that is completely not the way that the work ethic works here in the Dutch environment. I mean, Juanjo can tell us a bit more about his experience now working here, but like I can give you a really quick example. In all of the job positions that I've been looking for, there are options to either have a contract for 40 hours a week or for 36 hours a week. So you really drive your pace, and no one is going to see it in a wrong way if you want to have a life outside of work, which is really crazy that something so simple is so controversial back home in Latin America.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Andres. I believe quite a lot of the people who are joining us today or are watching us are sort of sympathizing with you in a way. And Annefer, you wanted to add to that, I think.
Yeah, and just I wanted to add also security-wise, most of our countries in Latin America are not the most secure. So in here, at least me as a girl, I feel comfortable walking at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. when it's dark, and I know that it's very secure for myself. So that's something I really appreciate also.
Definitely. It's a very important topic, of course, because it does affect the quality of your life. I mean, you want to be able to feel okay, enjoying the city, no matter what time of the day it is, and no matter the gender. And Juanjo, how about you?
Adding to what Fer and Andres have mentioned, I think a common denominator in Latin America is the traffic. For example, back in Peru, I couldn't really move around the city without jumping in my car and driving for 25, 30 an hour. In over a year living here, I've had no necessity of a car, to be honest. Either I walk, I ride a bike, or I take public transport without any preoccupation. As Fer mentioned, the idea of being able to walk home from a night out at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and knowing you'll be safe is something I really value. and as Andres was mentioning, you can really find work-life balance around here. From my professional experience in Peru, asking for holidays was a sort of a heavy issue. You must ask them formally and maybe with proper anticipation. Here is pretty much, I remember I started working and two weeks later I had vacations already programmed and they were like, yeah, go ahead. We don't need further explanation, just take your time and be back. So that's pretty shocking in a good way for me. And I think that's a good reason to come around.
Yeah, so you feel that you are like your rights are valued as an employee, basically, that you have the right for a certain amount of holidays you're entitled to, so you don't feel bad for taking them. It's actually something that as part of your contract, which you would most likely not find back at home, or you would feel a little bit more pressure, let's say, requesting those days off with the start of your contract, for example.
Yeah,
yes, and I see people. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Juanjo. Back in Mexico, we used to have, I think, like 5 holidays a year after the second year of working at a specific company. So the first year you didn't have anything. And then here, I mean, you probably know more than us, Maria, but they're in the 20s, I think, no? Like,
yeah, it's a little over 20. It depends, of course, on the contract and the years of experience, what kind of role you have, but yeah, indeed. And of course, yes, some public holidays that we have that are counting extra. Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that. We'll cover more later on in terms of like job opportunities for internationals. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think all 3 of you came to the Netherlands with your non-European passports, right?
right.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So I think that's also important to mention, because sometimes some Latin American students have also European passport, so they have a second nationality. But yeah, in our program, of course, there's a huge diversity, and the vast majority of the people that join RSM's MBA are non-European passport holders. And maybe a part of your MBA preparation that wasn't your favorite was the part of preparing for your application and making sure that you have everything ready, all your documents, your GMAT, your GRE, recommendations, all that. Looking back at it, what would you say was the toughest thing to do, or the most important thing that also influenced the success of your application and made a more solid application for you? You got an offer from RSM and you joined our MBA program. And are there perhaps any tips that you would like to share with people who are watching us? Who wants to take that?
I mean, I can start. Juanjo, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
I'll just say 4 letters and then you can jump on it. I think we all agree the GMAT was probably the hardest part of the application process, and then maybe Andres and Fer can give some extra detail on how they prepare for it.
Yeah, the GMAT was a big struggle, but then, like, in the application, in the essay, it's only 1 essay. I don't know if it's still 1 essay, but
it is.
In other business schools, you get several essays of several pages, so you have more opportunity to show who you are. So here, in a more condensed manner, you really have to convince, like, the audience, the decision committee, of who you are and what's the value that you can add to the cohort. So sometimes it's really challenging to be so concise on how to narrow your whole life and your whole being into 1 small essay and use that, like as a promoter of who you are.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. Just to explain it perhaps also to people who are joining us and are not really familiar with the admissions requirements. So part of the applications documents that you would have to upload is an essay of about 500 words that's linked to the mission statement of RSM, which is being a force for positive change. And in there, like Andres said, You have to be super concise, picking some examples of your life that showcase how you have become so far a force for positive change, or how you are planning to become a force for positive change in the future through the MBA program. And of course, like you said correctly, Andres, again, it's one of the few parts in your application, in the beginning at least, where you can showcase who you are, your motivation, communication skills, like what drives you as a person. And there we can really see indeed if there is also a match between what RSM is looking for and also how you operate best as an individual. So it can be challenging, I can imagine.
Yeah, but in that sense, I would recommend people who are applying to be authentic, not to try to check all the boxes that you think they want to hear, because at least in our cohort, we were a very diverse group of people, and that's what made it quite special. Because you could not say that there was someone super similar to you from another country. So that enriches the class. So don't be afraid to be yourself, and don't try to stick to a stereotype, I would say.
Yeah. And as a final tip, like maybe get a MBA application group where you help each other out. I mean, Ana Fer and I were helping each other out with the hours. Sometimes you're not motivated, but you just need the extra push of someone who is there for you to help you get there.
Yeah.
I would mention that a part that I really like about the application was that I realized RSM really look at our applications as a whole. We were not just a GMAT score. I think, if I'm not mistaken, by the time I got the interview, they were mentioning parts of my essay. They were mentioning parts of my Jira interviews, which are the video recordings you have to make. So I could tell they really took the time to evaluate me as a person, and not as how good at verbal or quant was at a certain moment in my life. And that also takes out the pressure that we already have for taking such a big exam, right?
Super. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. That's definitely something really good for us to hear, and also I think very important for the people to know. I think it also reflects the culture of the school as a whole, of course. Who was the first person actually that you mentioned that you got admitted when you received the call about the offer?
Me, my little sister.
Oh,
I think I
really?
mentioned.
Oh,
Yeah. She was. I called her and say, "Hey, you're not gonna see me the next year." Yeah.
that's it's good news, but you gave a little wicked twist to it.
Yeah.
And for you guys, of course, I know it was each other.
Yeah.
I remember also when I was mentioning the news first, I think it was Andres, and then Ana
Yeah, I
Fer.
applied first. Yeah.
Super. And it's really nice what you mentioned. It's good, of course, although lately we've been having more couples wanting to do their MBA together, applying together. Also, I guess one of the reasons why they do that is to have the support of their partner and to go through this whole experience together, to help each other. But well, if this is not the case, if there is like an individual applicant, it's definitely a really good thing to make sure that your support network is on board with your decision to do an MBA, because of course it is a lengthy process, and it's a really big decision to make, for sure. Perfect. And at the moment now that you've got your offer, you have your decision-making process period, and you decide, yes, I want to join the school. We mentioned, of course, a few reasons in the beginning as to why you decided you wanted to be part of RSM's MBA cohort. But here at this point, we have a bit more practical stuff. And one of the most important things, of course, is the finances. MBA programs are expensive. Also, you'll have to consider your living expenses throughout the duration of the program. Being in a foreign country, you want to make sure that you have a backup plan, because of course, touch wood, we're humans, and like some things could happen. You want to make sure that you are safe. How was that for you? Was it a process that started quite early, or were you rather at a bit of a later stage trying to figure out what would be your financial resources?
Should I start? For us, yeah, when we started looking at MBAs, we had already in mind how much was tuition for the schools we wanted to apply for. So we had already made also a budget of our monthly expenses of what we thought we could be spending, additional to the tuition, just living expenses. And yeah, so for some part we had some savings, but also we took credit to pay for the tuition. Yeah, I think it's basically that.
Yeah, for that financing, so we use Prodigy Finance, which is one of the most famous like banks that finances students worldwide. And that process was really straightforward. I mean, after you have the acceptance letter from the school, that's part of the files that you need to submit. And I mean, I think it's really straightforward. If you submit all the documents that they ask for, you will get a loan from them. And then Prodigy directly coordinates with the school to make the payments. And they give you a notification just for you to know that everything is okay. So that really helped us out with the payments as well. It's important to notice that Prodigy finances different aspects depending on the school you're attending to. For example, I mean, we have plenty of friends that have done MBAs in other programs, and Prodigy just extended the credit line for them a bit more. And for us, I remember that we had to tap into our savings a bit more than expected. So we did get the loans, but not as much as we wanted to. But it was all under control because we had also budgeted for our savings to be used in the MBA journey.
Perfect. So it's definitely a good idea to check because, like you said, indeed, it goes by an individual case and by schools and locations you'll be applying for. They have different parameters to check that, companies like Prodigy Finance. So it's definitely a good idea to make sure that you arrange also some savings to use them, of course, for your living expenses, but in case the whole loan is not approved, so that you have a little bit of a wiggle room to use for adding for the rest of the tuition fees that need to be covered. And taking study loans, it's a very, very common thing in the business world, in the MBA world. How about you, Juanjo? Was it a similar experience, or rather a different thing?
Yes, similar. I had the advantage that one of my closest friends did the MBA a year before us. So I had firsthand information of how much was the living cost in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, which is something to not let pass briefly. As context, if you compare the living cost of the Netherlands versus Spain, which is another popular destination for Latin American people, it is more expensive. So my one advice would be take proper knowledge of how much is your living budget based on your expectations. I didn't use Prodigy. I did evaluate it. I got a loan from my company, which is also a bank, Banco de Crédito in Peru, which had a really nice interest rate. And I'm currently asking for a loan here in the Netherlands because they have even better interest rates. So I can pay that debt and just be in debt with the Dutch bank, which also it's more straightforward. And just as context, is not as hard as asking for a loan at least in Peru. So that's also a really good option.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm pretty sure it's really a useful piece of information for a lot of our of people who are watching us. And of course, we also have a lot of people from Peru who are applying. So it could be an idea for them to look into alternatives on a local level from different banks. And yeah, once you, if I'm not mistaken, start having like a contract with an employer in the Netherlands and you're registered here, you are entitled to request a loan from a bank. So that's a good one indeed. Thank you very much. And moving on to the relocation process, coming to the Netherlands, how was that for you? Anything that went or didn't go as planned? How was the whole moving to a new country for you? What was perhaps the most difficult part, or things that you were expecting will be very difficult, but in the end they were a bit more straightforward? And how did RSM as a school assist you a little bit with it, perhaps with maybe the visa documents? That's also a really big thing for non-European passport holders. Who wants to start? Should we start with Juanjo? You're ready, Juanjo. I can see it.
Actually, I'm really grateful for the help RSM got us through the visa application and eventually got the visa. We only have to worry about sending you the proper documentation. You would prove or check if our documentation was good enough for the Dutch embassy or whatever. And it was like a teacher helping us pass an exam, right? Actually, there was no worry on that side for me. Of course, moving to another country, this was my first time living abroad. Of course, besides the sadness of leaving your family and friends, it was sort of a direct and easy movement in my life. I was lucky to come here with one of my best friends as part of the MBA. He also got accepted. And besides that, there's a huge Latin American community in RSM. And even regarding the Latin Americans, there's a huge, all 100 of us, when we got into RSM, we became sort of a really close group of friends. I'm really close with both Andres and Fer, and it's easier to get along in a new city and in a new country when you have such a strong support group. Of course, you're still going to be missing your family every now and then, but it gets easier as the months go on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and also I got an easier commute here. I only got 2 bags of luggage. That I'm gonna wait until Andres and Fer tell you how many luggage they brought here.
For us, I think the hardest part was finding a house. Here in, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it's not hard, but it takes time to find a place where to live if you don't live at the university, because there's only a limited spots to live there, right? So for us, we had planned to come here with an apartment. However, we couldn't find something before coming. So we were for 3 weeks or a month, I don't remember, in a hotel the first month before we could find an apartment. So that was the biggest struggle, basically, because we lived in a hotel where we could not put our clothes out of the bags. We also came with our cat. So that made it more difficult because obviously finding a furnished apartment that accepts pets, it's more difficult. But at the end, we found one, so don't worry. You just have to be persistent and send like 20 to 30 emails per day, and then you get one. Yeah. But other than that, as Juanjo said, people here are really open, and also just people who are coming to the MBA are there on the same journey as you are, and they're experiencing the same stuff. So you really connect with them really, really quickly, and yeah, even more quickly with the Latino people, because we have in common mostly the same language. And looking back, we were just seeing photos from our first month here with our friends, and it was 2 weeks in, and we had already made a trip to Belgium with some of the guys, and we were like, how did we become so friends so fast, right? So that part, I think it's one of the most that I really enjoyed, like the community itself.
Super. And you're still in touch with each other from what you were telling me in the beginning.
Yeah, like, as Juanjo said, we see each other like 3 to 4 times a week or more.
Wow, that's very
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're really close, all of the cohort. I mean, for example, we have movie nights on Tuesdays. We have an RSM trivia night on Wednesdays. We play footballs every Sunday. I mean, it's really like a big family here, and we just make life easier for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that you mentioned that because, of course, for a lot of people, they're thinking, okay, how is it going to be? Am I going to be isolated from the rest of the students? How are they going to perceive me? But you see that there is collegiality and this genuine feeling of supporting each other because everyone's on the same boat. And of course, your cohort, we were discussing it before the webinar officially started, was a really special one because you really bonded with each other, and you do have, of course, these cohorts that find a bit more connection with each other. But overall, what we hear also from our MBA alums, the thing that they remember most out of their MBA experience is the connections that they made with their classmates, and they keep for the rest of their lives. And of course, that's really, really nice to hear. So 2 things: the visa application process, don't worry so much for it, but of course be prepared for the documents that are required because it is important, and there is going to be support. Our registrar's team will be helping you understand what documents are required, and then they will have a last check before you send your file to the Dutch Immigration Office. Everything goes online, so you update all your documents in a portal. And relocation, like you said, Anna Fer, of course, it is challenging. It is, well, the Netherlands is small. It's a small city, Rotterdam. Well, if you consider that's the second biggest city in the Netherlands, it's still like tiny. And it is, of course, a student city. There's a big expat community here. So definitely a really good thing to look into housing opportunities as soon as you realize that you want to join the school. And definitely connecting with people. I believe that also for us, we've learned from previous cohorts, and we try to do that more and more, connecting people from cohorts that are just completing the MBA program and the ones who are starting it, so that you can share also your knowledge and experience with the ones who are about to embark on the same trip as the one that you're completing. But yeah, that's definitely something to underline. Very good. And all right, so you're here, you have your home after 3-4 weeks living out of a suitcase and try to figure out what's the best supermarket in the neighborhood. How was, in terms of the whole MBA experience, if you could highlight 1 or 2 things from parts perhaps of the curriculum or the extracurricular activities that are organized by the school. You mentioned in the very beginning, Anna Fer, also the PLD, the Personal Leadership Development Program, that's really focusing on making sure you get the soft skills that you need, and the opportunity to reflect on things that you're learning throughout the MBA year. So perhaps that could be one. What else was that perhaps for you something that it will stay with you, that helped you achieve your goals throughout the MBA?
Yeah, for me, as you said, the PLD program, it was one of the game changers or differentiators from other business schools, which I really liked. And I also really enjoyed, in that sense, also the living management project, which is we're giving a real case for 1 month where we work with a company and we come up with some solution to the problem they're having. So for me, that was I wanted to, as I said before, I wanted to develop more my leadership skills, and that was a way where I could really employ them in real life, as when it is by teams, but with my team we decided that I was gonna be the project leader for me it was a really good experience to see that in real life. Yeah, for me that was one of the things that really, two of the things that I really enjoyed about their curriculum. I'm not saying that classes were not as interesting or whatever, but
Financial management.
yeah, no, but I think that's what stood out most for me.
Perfect.
For me, I guess it was the study trip, because I mean, you have to take a study trip and you get to choose where to go depending on what the theme you want it to be. So for me, I like entrepreneurship. So the entrepreneurship study trip was in Greece, and I spent like 10 days in Greece, and sure, it was fantastic. I had never been to Greece, and I went to the beach and to the Acropolis and all that, but like as a study trip, I really liked it because um like to teach about entrepreneurship is sometimes really hard, because you have to kind of experience it more than just in a lecture. So what RSM did was that they managed many trips, for example, where we met entrepreneurs who were just starting up their businesses. We met other people who were investing in small businesses. So we had like their perspective on what were they looking for and what were like the keys to succeed based on their experience. We also met incubators, and they taught us about the whole process of really getting a small business going. So it was a really like a hands-on experience from the end-to-end perspective of what does it like or what does it take to be an entrepreneur, which would have been really hard to cover that, or to really understand it in a PowerPoint and just slides like back at the Bale building. So I really loved the study trip.
Super.
Adding to what Fer and Andres had mentioned, the study trip, the PLD and the LMP experiences, I would add, as a general comment, classes were way more practical than I expected. Of course, you have to have some theoretical background, but compared this to college, we had so many practical examples, which made classes way more dynamic. Of course, the teachers, the professors rely on us doing cases and doing pre-readings before each session, and I think that's the part that makes the conversation better. It's not mandatory, but of course, once you see the whole classroom talking about something and you have no idea, you want to be part of the conversation as well. And to add up to a non-academic but sort of academic part of the MBA life, there's the MBAT, which are the MBA Olympics, and they sound as cool as the name says itself. As in a nutshell, the top 10, 15 MBA programs in Europe go to HEC in Paris for 4 days, and we practice, we compete in all the sports as in the Olympics, and at nights you can network and party with people from all over MBAs. That was for sure one of the best experiences we've had as an academic, non-academic part of the MBA.
Amazing. And if I remember correctly, Annafer got a medal, right?
No, like 4 gold medals.
4!
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sasha
And-
told us it was like a record.
So good. Well done.
Yeah,
That's
I'm a little
amazing.
bit competitive. So, but even if you're not very competitive, it's a very fun event to attend. As Juanjo said, a lot of these top business schools go and you meet a lot of people, and it's really fun.
Yeah, indeed. Because of course we're talking all the time about like the studies and the materials and presentations and all that, but an MBA program should be also fun. Of course, it's definitely an intensive experience. You know it more than anyone else. But at the same time, hearing also that you had the chance to connect with classmates, people from within the program, and also outside the school in these kind of events like the MBA that you mentioned, Juan Jose. I think that's really important because, yeah, it should be like that. It should give you the opportunity to enjoy your stay in another country, visit other places as well, through these kind of events or things that you organize on your own, going on small trips and weekends, and yeah, really delving into the culture of the different places that you visit. That's really nice to hear that you had the chance to do that.
Yeah.
Super. And in terms of, because of course you live here for a little over a year now, what has been for you perhaps the biggest challenge to get used to in your life in the Netherlands, and what is something that you really appreciate? We spoke a little bit in the beginning about it, like the lifestyle of the Dutch, but is there maybe something else that you're thinking of, for especially like for Latin American students, like people with Latin American background, that they're going to be a little perhaps like struggling with, or pleasantly surprised by the Netherlands?
I would say maybe a small challenge. I mean, small challenge, but given that in Latin America we're used to these things, so here you have to do most of the things like yourself. There's no like cheap way to, give a few bucks to someone and then just have them fix the problem for you, like in Mexico at least. But I guess that's the same in most major first world countries, because salaries are so high that things start getting expensive, and so you become like a more practical, like complete human, like part handyman and part, I don't know, you name it, but you actually have to walk to the grocery store now to buy your food. But everything is great. I mean, life is great here. I think that the best thing, that the thing that I like the most is just like the cycling infrastructure. And it's not just around here to go to the park or to go to Central Station. Like it's everywhere in the country. Like you can get anywhere in a bike. Um, I even go with a friend I met from the MBA. We go to other cities biking. So I mean, the biking infrastructure goes from here to Breda and Utrecht and The Hague and Amsterdam, and that for me is just amazing, because the infrastructure. I mean, you can really see that here that taxes are well spent, or better spent than in our countries.
Thank you, Andres. It feels like I probably asked you to say these words before the start of the webinar, but I swear we didn't. But yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. Honestly, also for myself, of course, I haven't done an MBA, but coming originally from Greece and not having this infrastructure in our country, I also really appreciated coming here. So yeah, completely understand your point of view.
And maybe a little bit at first everyone struggled with the weather, because you come on January when it's really cold, it's always raining, it's night at 4 p.m. Dark. So at first you struggle a little bit, but then you get used to it. Now you have become Dutch when you are biking and it's still raining and you don't care, like so you get by.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And I was a bit surprised when you didn't mention it first. I was thinking they're not going to talk about the weather, because of course everyone who
Yeah.
comes from somewhat sunnier, warmer places, and coming here in January, which is one of the coldest, darkest months of the year, it is a big shock for sure. We should let the people who are watching us know that. But yeah, as the time goes by, and we're approaching spring and then summer, the days become longer and sunnier, and it gets a little better than what it was in the beginning for sure. But yeah, it's good to prepare for a bit of rain, a little more, and then have some raincoat with you. It's always useful to have. And you, Juanjo, anything from your end that we haven't mentioned already?
I think not in a negative side, but in a cultural shock. I think we have to get used to, or Latin American people have to get used to the Dutch directness. Dutch are nice people, but they will tell you the things straightforward, no sugar-coated. At least in Peru, and I think in most in Latin America, will try to give you a soft landing of whatever we're going to tell you. And this applies both in the personal and professional way of living. They are proud of being direct, but once you realize it's just the way they talk and it's nothing against you, it gets better. And something I really value, like Andres mentioned, people are really active in this country. I really enjoy biking towards wherever I'm going, and I'm seeing people in their 70s or 80s biking or walking. That really motivates me to stay around. And I can say many people from our cohort got into this really active and sporty life. And I've ran a half a marathon. Andres is training for, I think, an Ironman or a triathlon. I'm playing football.
Half Ironman.
That's
Half Ironman.
amazing.
So people get motivated by what they see and our peers.
Super. Thank you for sharing that. It's really good to know that that you're staying active and that your surroundings are motivating you to do so. Of course, another very important part, we talked a little right now about the Dutch culture, and of course, you moved into a new country, doing your MBA program. You were trying to understand a little bit how people communicate here. The Dutch directness, of course, it's worldwide known. And of course, you were trying to figure out a little bit how the Dutch work market functions, because that was also something new to you, or at least to most of our students. Going back through your this process, let's say, that you had, understanding also a little bit what are your goals in terms of career opportunities. How would you describe that journey? Was there anything that was included in the program from your MBA experience, something that was offered from RSM that helped you a little bit to set your targets and then achieve some or all your goals? I know that you, Juanjo, already have a job. Andres and Ana Fer are in the process of looking for job opportunities. How has things been so far? Who wants to start? Maybe Ana Fer and Andres?
Yeah. So RSM does help you with some career coaches and and personal coaches. So since the beginning of the year, we have been having workshops on how to tailor our CVs, on whether or not we should do internships when the time comes. We have a specific class that is called self-marketing, where I really enjoy that class, where they teach you how to network. Sometimes it sounds silly, and I don't know about you, but I really don't like networking. But they give you, like, not a script, but like a formula on how to do it, and it becomes more tactical, and it's not that stressful, right? So there are a lot of ways in which RSM helps you, yeah, put yourself targets also with the career coaches, and then to make a plan for you to achieve them. So, and it depends on you how much you want to talk to your coaches and how much you leverage on that. But even if you don't really talk to them, there's a lot of events and classes that are events are not mandatory, but some classes they are, where you can leverage that and really connect with people that help you achieve them.
Yeah, I mean, adding to that, I mean, I guess RSM really gives you the access to all the resources you need, but it has to be like a personal decision to use and to leverage those resources. I mean, we all know of people who went to all networking events and really tried to meet everyone and gave it all, and some other people who just didn't want to put themselves in that position. So I mean, RSM builds half of the bridge, and you need to build the other half. And with those two things together, you will have everything you need to get a job.
Super.
Adding to what has been mentioned, I do agree. The self-marketing class, probably one of the best classes I've had, not only in the MBA, in my academic life. They not only teach you how to address yourself while you're looking for a job, but also how to address yourself while speaking in public. And speaking in public will lead you to speak properly in an interview. If your message is clear, then it's going to be easier for the others to really understand what you're thinking or how are you. Also, as Andres mentioned, it's not like RSM was handling jobs outside of the building. Hey, you want to be a marketer, you want to be an engineer, go ahead, this is your new job. You have to fight for it, and fight might be the accurate word. It can be intense, it can be stressful, it can be even disappointing, because I know such intelligent people that struggled a bit to just get a hold of an interview, because we got to remember at the end of the day, we are applying with other dozens of other applicants. So the key part is not to be demotivated, to keep their heads up, and of course with a good support system we can do that. In my personal experience, as in my application process, I realized it was pretty straightforward, and I gotta thank networking for that. I think there are two ways of applying for a job. One is applying through LinkedIn, which there is nothing wrong with that, just applying to all the opportunities that you found. And the other is trying to apply through networking, which is basically trying to talk to people as much as you can, or in the specific industries that you're interested into, and try to see if you can fit, if there's any role that you like in that area or in that industry, in that company, that they can give you a referral, which was the way I got into my actual job. So yeah, pretty much that's the experience that I've had so far.
Super. That's a really good tip, the last one, like trying to utilize also the network that you have built, because of course you didn't do that for nothing. In networking opportunities, like learning, like Ana Fer said, how to network, because it doesn't come natural for everyone. So you have to sort of take it step by step and create a formula that you will apply every time, adjusting it here and there. So yeah, I'm happy that things worked out for you, and I'm pretty sure that for you guys as well soon. You will have, I'm looking forward to hear like good news soon. Yeah. I'm looking a little bit at the time, and I had so many questions to ask you. I know this conversation would go on for another hour, but I wanted to check a little bit if we have any questions. I see we have a few. Oh, we had one. A question, of course, with regards to the experience of finding a job. We've shared it just now, so I think the main takeaway is not giving up. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have also difficult moments, but the thing is, try to use your network that you have created throughout the MBA year. Use social media platforms such as LinkedIn, where you have part of your network there as well, and stay connected with people or companies that can help you. And yeah, reach out to your classmates as well. I'm pretty sure that you're all super connected. If something happens, like an opening in a specific a role in a company that you are already working or will be working in the future, you'll tell your classmates, right? This is a little bit like a reflex on how it works. Let me see. What we need to apply. Okay, that's a question for me. So in order for you to prepare your application, we would need first of course for you to open up an application form through Embark platform. I'm sure that for you guys that rings a bell, something that you had to do as well, of course. And we would need 2 recommendations from your professional network. Could be people that you worked with in the past, people that you work with currently. An updated version of your CV, copy of your passport, the results of a standardized test, such as GMAT or GRE, your bachelor and transcripts, so the list of the courses that you have completed during your studies, and the essay that we've mentioned also in the beginning of about 500 words that is linked to the mission statement of RSM and helps you showcase how you have become a force for positive change, or how are you planning to become a force for positive change through the MBA program. So these are the basic documents that we have in there, and once these are submitted in one of our application rounds, we have a first look in your application. It takes us about a couple of days, depending on how busy the application round is, and we get back to you with the outcome of letting you know whether you'll be moving on to the next stage. And in that next stage, there is an official interview that you will have to complete, and an online video assessment that Juanjo mentioned earlier, the Kira Talent Assessment. If you don't have a GMAT or a GRE result, you could be eligible for the business admissions test. It's something that we've actually launched last year, August. So for you guys, that wasn't the case. But it's an alternative to GMAT or GRE, also because of the struggles that we've seen people having to showcase their value. We've decided to use an alternative test for that. And I know there will be questions. We have some information already on our website. It's something relatively new. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll share my contact details towards the end. And then once this is completed and we have everything in your application, we're ready for the final evaluation of it. We'll be letting you know if you are going to be admitted to the program, and also if there is any scholarship opportunities coming your way. That could also play, of course, an important role in financing your MBA program. Scholarships we offer are a discount to the total amount of the tuition fees. You don't have to apply for a specific one. Basically, what happens is once you submit your application, you're automatically considered for one of the scholarship types that we offer. But I'll be more than happy to share more information with you if you have questions on that. And let me see. I think we've covered quite a lot of questions during our talk. We have a couple more, but I don't want to keep you any longer. We've gone a little bit over time, so I don't want to keep you guys as well, because we vlogged in much earlier so we could chat a little bit. Eventually that didn't work, but yeah, I think if there's anything, or maybe just to close this this really nice discussion, if you could share with us one tip that you might have for Latin American candidates on the whole MBA decision-making process and preparing yourselves for it, what would that be? I know we mentioned a few things in the beginning, but like the main thing for you that made the change for you to make an informed decision on that.
For me, it would be to really reflect on why do you want to do this. I mean, you need to have a plan for your future, and then you need to see where this MBA fits in getting you towards that plan. And that will help you a lot with the essay, with the motivation, with everything else. I mean, if you really know the why you're doing it, it's gonna help you a lot.
Perfect.
Adding to what Andres mentioned, after you have self-analyzed what are the reasons you're doing this program, see what's the best fit. Of course, RSM will welcome every one of you, but you gotta be honest on what are you looking for. And I really value that. While I was talking before applying, they were really clear on what they could offer and asked me what I was looking for. And if we didn't match, then that would be okay for them. They just wanna, I can tell the RSM team really wants to help all of the applicants develop the best they can, even if it's not within the RSM campus.
Thank you for that. Ana Fer.
They have some, like they did two very valid points. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, we covered quite a lot of things already.
Yes.
And you mentioned also before also your logic into trying to figure out also in terms of location and university and what you would like to develop in terms of personal, professional skills. So all these things are to be considered, of course. We'll have to end this conversation. I wish, yeah, I could keep you longer, but I know I shouldn't because you have to go have your dinner now. Because yes, we're in the Netherlands, but I guess like everyone eats a little bit with the Latin American time still.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone who joined us today and for the really good questions. Most of all, I wanted to thank you guys for being our speakers and for sharing your experience with us. I know that yeah, it's a recent experience. You're like now perhaps in a different phase in your life, getting again into the professional world, but everything you've shared with us I think was spot on, and I'm pretty sure it's going to help quite a lot of the people that are watching this. And yeah, well, I'll have to say till next time. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Maria.
much.